Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about trauma. I want to talk about signs that some of your emotions are a symptom of trauma. And we're going to talk about these emotions and behaviors that are dictated by your emotions so that we can kind of understand where some of these are coming from. And then at the end, I'll give you a quick kind of checklist of what you can do to manage yourself. The first one is that you react immediately. Okay. So reacting immediately, anyone can react immediately, but it is the frequency and how often you are reacting immediately in comparison to maybe other people who don't have traumatic childhoods. And so reacting immediately, an example could be that maybe someone said something and perhaps their tone was a little bit off. Maybe they were tired. You reacted thinking that they don't like you, they're judging you, they're making fun of you, and then you have interpreted that and you react upon that interpretation. But those interpretations are so fast, you might not even recognize that's where it's coming from. And the reason why this comes from trauma is when you were younger, you had to react immediately. You learned to, because if you didn't, something bad would happen. And so you learned that if this tone or this version of events happens, something bad will happen. I need to do something right away. That's why your body does that. The next one is that you have difficulty respecting requests or boundaries. The reason why I put respecting in air quotes is not that you're trying to disrespect. It's that there's quite a lot with this one, but mainly it's because you yourself don't understand boundaries because you don't set them yourself. And we're gonna have to talk about this in a little more detail. People who have trauma they're not comfortable with setting boundaries because when they were younger, those boundaries were challenged. So if they said, "Mom, I don't want you to come into my bedroom, I'm still getting ready." And she might open the door and barge in and say, "What are you talking about? You're my son. This is my house. I can do whatever I want." Your boundary was crossed. You're so used to your boundary being crossed that you have learned that, okay, boundaries are not even that important. And so if somebody says, "Hey, I don't want to talk right now, I'm a little tired," you might be compelled to keep talking or trying to resolve that issue or push that boundary, not because you're disrespecting them, but because you were taught that your boundaries didn't matter. So it almost made you think when people say that, that's not important because when you said it wasn't important. So that's what you learned. So you're not actually trying to cross people's boundaries. It happens because of what happened to you. And a lot of people might you might accidentally push people away because you do this without realizing why you do it. And you might blame yourself and say, "Why do I always do this? Why am I always so, uncomfortable with certain things? Why does uncertainty bother me? How come I don't understand these things? I don't understand when people say no. How come they don't say it clearly?" Sometimes it comes from this, that all of the things that you said, even when you said no, it wasn't ever good enough. Your parents or caregiver, or maybe when you were bullied, someone crossed your boundary multiple times, okay? If you guys are looking for more videos from me and more posts about me and my life and other members of our group, that is pinned in the comments. It's a $10 group. It's just for anyone who wants to join. There are exclusive videos, but there are lots of other things that we do as well. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to join. We would love to have you. The next one is your mood actually dictates how you treat other people. This happens how do I even explain it? I'm going to try. It might not fit as well with every person. And also forgive me, I'm a little under the weather, so my voice is a little bit, I know you guys ask a lot. My health is kind of on the more delicate side, so I get under the weather pretty easily. But anyways, I'm sorry about that. When your mood dictates how you treat people around you, what happens is when you were a child, you had to kind of suppress your feelings quite a lot. And you had to, even if you were in a bad mood, if you said, speaking of boundaries, "I'm in a bad mood, Mom or Dad, I don't want to talk right now," or "I kind of don't want dinner," your parents would still cross that boundary continuously. And so you had moments where your mood boiled over to such a point that you actually pushed against your parents because you couldn't handle it anymore. And so what ends up happening is by doing that, your brain was trained that your mood dictates how you view and see other people. Your mind told yourself that your parents are fine, your parents are good, and they probably were not the best parents. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying that they probably were not the best. And so, but you had to lie to yourself for survival. And so when your boundaries and emotions boiled over, you thought to yourself, okay, my parents are actually not good. They're hurtful, they're disrespectful, etc. And so your mind taught you that when you're at a certain point in your mood, you view each other, people, more negatively because you had to do that with your parents. And so you might do this with people. You might think bad things around you or bad things about people when you're in a bad mood. The next one is that you have trouble making decisions. A lot of times, any decision you made when you were younger, you were not allowed to make those decisions. Maybe your parents mocked you. Maybe they made decisions for you. And so you have trouble making decisions as an adult due to such. And sometimes it's because your emotions control you to such an extent where maybe when you're feeling low about yourself, you think, okay, I don't even deserve to make these decisions because that's what your parents would say. The next one is you would overinterpret anything that's ambiguous, but even more so if it's if there's uncertainty involved, like the result of that ambiguous decision or emotion is still unresolved, it's uncertain. And so you read neutral events as evidence of rejection or abandonment because when you were younger, when your parents were detached or even neutral, their neutral was rejection because they were doing that to you all the time. The next one is that you actually might be stuck in emotional states for hours or days. When children are traumatized, when they're younger and also as they grow, the household that has these very heavy or impactful emotions, they stay in the household where the child almost has to withhold it. I'm trying to explain it. And again, guys, I'm sick. Like, how do I even explain it? If the child is going to school, a lot of them don't tell people, even counselors, this is what's happening at home. And so that emotional state, whatever happened that morning, is still with them because they haven't resolved it. They haven't told anybody about it. And so they've suppressed it. And these emotions, whatever happened that morning, may have been incredibly impactful emotionally, but they stay in that state because they have nothing else to do. And they know when they come back home, they're going to be in that state again. They can't tell anybody, they have nowhere to go. And so they almost preserve that emotional state to when they come back home. I don't know if that made sense, but that's why that happens psychologically. And so because of that trauma, your mind has taught you that these states need to stay for hours and days to prepare yourself for what's going to happen next. But as an adult, when you have left that traumatic home, you no longer need to do that. So now, even if, let's say, your boss sent you a very not clear email, you might be stuck on that for days because in your mind, anything unclear, anything that could be potentially dangerous, it's going to come back and get you in a couple of days because that's exactly what it's always been for you. The next one is criticism feels like a personal attack instead of feedback. This one's tricky because some people do try to use criticism as a personal attack. However, if it's people you care about, if it's your loved ones, example, if it's like your wife and she's, a very caring person overall and she gives you feedback, you might take it as a personal attack, not because you don't care about your wife, but because your parents gave you personal attacks through criticism all the time. And the next one is that you often think in extremes. Never, always, everyone hates me, nothing works, I'm never good enough, because your parents actually did speak and treat things in extremes. The next one is you spend time in high emotional states. And then what you do is you might feed those emotional states instead of staying away from them. You might go on some, chat room and talk about all the negative things that happen to you. And this can be good to some extent to kind of vent and get it off your chest. But that's what I meant by you feed into it. When you were a child, that emotional state lasted 18 years. Because that's the way your family was. And you had really no choice but to kind of vent or talk about it every day, every now and again, if at all. That's all you could do because the state would never leave. You had to live with your parents, right? That's the situation you were in, sometimes even longer. And you can't get away from it. And so your mind just teaches you that when you're in that emotional state, you have nothing better to do. And so your mind will end up feeding into it. And so that's what you do now as an adult, even if it's not the same situation. And so what do you do in kind of a self-check? Kind of check what you're feeling. Ask yourself what triggered it, and then what action will help relieve it. And when I mean relieve it, what action will help for more than 5 minutes typically. Examples could be that you distract yourself. Examples could be that you talk to a trusted person. Examples could be that you reword it. Examples could be, I realize this person is not healthy for me. I need to have a conversation with them. And if it doesn't work out, maybe I need to leave this friendship, need to leave this relationship. A healthier pattern is usually you feel that emotion, you process where it comes from, you take a long pause or a pause long enough to understand and decide where to place that emotion or if that emotion is properly placed, and then choose a response or decide not to respond depending, and also choose an action. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.